my name is Ridley and welcome to my kitchen. And this is my kitchen, how I found it. We are going to be finishing off our little tour of Turkey today with a super fascinating dish called Manti. This is actually a really cool one because Manti is a type of dish that can be found pretty much everywhere throughout Central Asia, and almost every country has a version of it, and all of them are very different, but they all kind of center around these little dumplings that are then oftentimes served with a sauce. So the origin of this dish is from Turkic and Mongol, I guess, traders who are along the Silk Road would be bringing along these tiny little, or not tiny, but they little dumplings that are either frozen or dried, and they would be able to really easily store and carry them, and then also very easily be able to boil them up and make a really quick meal. And then that sort of spread to everywhere, and so you can get this in varying sizes and versions in a bunch of different countries. We are going to be doing a Turkish version of it, which is going to be some smaller sized dumplings with a beef or lamb mixture inside. And then it is going to be mixed in with a yogurt sauce and then a spiced oil over the top. And so it's kind of like ravioli, but also wildly different. As far as what goes into the dish, it's pretty straightforward. So we're going to be making a dough, which is just some flour. We've got an egg, a little bit of oil, and we've also got just some water to fill that out. And then that dough is going to make kind of like the ravioli coating for everything. And then from there, the filling is super simple. I'm just going to be doing some onions, some ground beef, and then I've got some salt and pepper to go in with it too. The sauce that goes on top is going to be a traditional garlic yogurt sauce. So this is just going to be some garlic, some yogurt. If you can find Turkish yogurt, that would be best. Otherwise, you can use Greek yogurt. You want a really thick, creamy yogurt. And then I'll add a little bit of salt to this as well. And then the spiced oil has got a new ingredient to it, a couple of ingredients that I've never used that I'm very excited for. So olive oil as the base. And then in here, we have got this brown paste, or this reddish paste, is a pepper paste. It's called, I think, biber salçası, and it is kind of like a Turkish version of super concentrated tomato paste. It's a mixture of peppers, a little bit of lemon juice, a tiny bit of oil, and then dehydrated down or dried down so that it concentrates the flavors. You can find spicier versions, you can find sweeter versions. This one's probably more on the sweeter side. I also have some Aleppo pepper, which is going to be kind of like a crushed red pepper, except it's got a more fruity, almost like raisiny aroma to it, so a little bit of sweetness. Some dried mint, and the last one, which is very new, is this little bit here is sumac. Now, I've never done this before, but sumac is, I guess, a type of a red berry, and it has this super fascinating, like citrusy, savory mix of flavors. And so those are going to be mixed in with the oil to create the oil on top of the garlic yogurt mixture. But those are all the ingredients. So to get that started, we're going to start with making our dough. And so I am going to take the flour, add just a little touch of salt in here. And then we've got one egg, a little bit of the olive oil, and some water. And for this one, all we're gonna be doing is making a dough very similar to how you would make a pasta dough. We're gonna incorporate all of the fluids together. We are going to knead this for a couple of minutes to help develop a little bit of the gluten content. And from there, we're gonna let it rest in the fridge for about 30 minutes. I don't know. I don't remember that sentence. Anyways, so we're going to get all of this mixed together, knead it for about 3 to 4 minutes. It should be a fairly elastic dough, but you also want it to be fairly firm because we're going to need to be able to spread this out nice and thin, but still have substance to it to be able to make those dumplings. So I am going to just dive right in and start incorporating all of the liquids together. And then once they're all mixed, it's just going to be kneading like a regular pasta dough, 3 or 4 minutes into the fridge, and let it rest. If you watch the people who make dough regularly, it's crazy because it's like their skin is made of Teflon or something because the dough just slides right off. First time I ever did this, I like went straight in with both hands and I was left with the inability to touch anything, including the faucet to turn the water on to clean it off.
I imagine they probably put something on their hands, maybe?
Not really, not usually. But I think it's more of like their technique, because you'll watch the way that they move their hands and they're like, it's a very specific motion. And I've gotten better at it. So now I have like some on here, but it's not a caking on my whole hand. This is actually feeling like a fairly nice dough. All right, so turn it out here and then just continue working for a few minutes. And then as far as the kneading goes, I don't fully understand the mechanics that are going on while you're doing this, but from my understanding, the gluten that is in the flour is connecting and you're sort of stringing together these long chains with it. And so you want to, I guess, sort of fold it over and allow those chains to stretch, I think. I do know that when you knead dough, it's really fascinating because the first time I was doing it, I just thought the entire time I was doing it wrong, but it's very much a trust the process sort of thing, because as you continue kneading and incorporating everything together, the texture of it changes dramatically. And it goes from this sort of shaggy, clumpy thing to this super smooth, incredibly satisfying texture. Toss it in a bag, into the fridge, 30 minutes. So, for the yogurt sauce, it's actually going to be very simple. We've got some yogurt, we have got a few cloves of grated or minced or crushed garlic, and then we're going to add, again, just a little bit of salt, mix it together, and that is the entirety of the garlic sauce. It'd be helpful to have a spoon. Now for this one, the seasoning of the salt is to taste. I have to imagine the seasoning of the garlic is to some extent also to taste. So there is a range of cloves and salt amounts that you can use. I would say match the one that you like the best. And since all of these are edible raw, you can actually taste it right here and just make sure you've got the right components. The garlic, you can taste it actually really well. I'm probably gonna add just a touch more salt, but I don't want it to be too salty because again, I like people being able to adjust their seasonings at the table. So let's do a little bit more salt, but then we will allow for personalization at the plate. Perfect. All right, so that is our garlic sauce. For our meat filling, we're gonna do one slight different thing here. So I have some diced onions. However, if you are going to be using these in the filling, you wanna make sure that they are as fine as possible. So I've seen a lot of places say grated onions or super finely chopped. These are kind of a regular fine chop onion. And so I am going to just put these on the cutting board and then just rock over them a bit to reduce them down a little bit to more of, say, a grated onion. If you are doing this and you just have the onion, you can use it on a box grater, and that will be a great consistency for this. All right. This is probably not perfect, but it is at least significantly better mince than I had before. I think I've got rid of most of the big ones, and should assist with not having too many giant chunks of onions inside our dumplings. All right. Now, the mixture itself is just going to be mixing together our beef onion and a little bit of salt and pepper. So I'll grab a bowl for that and just mix together. Now, to put the beef mix together, it's really simple. We're just gonna add our beef, those onions that we have, a little bit of salt and pepper. Again, to taste, I do like my pepper, so judge as much as you like. A little bit of salt. All right. Get this all mixed together, kind of like a meatloaf mix or something like that. We're just getting this kind of flavorful mixture of spices and meat, and then this is going to be the filling for our little Manti. All right, that's all of our main components because our spiced oil we're gonna be putting on right at the end, and so we're gonna cook that just towards the end to make sure that it's still hot and it's got that fresh flavor to it. So right now, we just have another, I would say 15 minutes while the dough is resting. Once that's done, it's gonna come right out here, gonna roll it out, and then start making our dumplings. So I'm gonna clear all this up, and I will see you guys in 20 minutes. So, dough has rested now, and it's got this really great texture to it, which I'm kind of excited to play with. I have lightly floured a little surface here. This is just a silicone mat that I'm gonna use to roll everything out, but you can do this on a countertop or whatever you need. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna separate this into a few pieces so that I can work on each piece independently. And in the meantime, the ones I'm not working with, I'm gonna put back in the bag just so that they don't dry out. Another way that you can do this is if you have a damp tea towel or something like that, you can just set it over the ones that you're not using at the time so that you can work with one at a time. And then for these, you just want to roll them out really thin and really flat because we're trying to make, like I said, these tiny little dumplings. And so I am just going to roll this out, and I'm aiming for something along the lines of 10 inches by 12 inches. And that should be enough to do our first sheet where we'll cut it into strips and then we'll cut it into little squares, and then each square will be its own dumpling. Okay, so okay. So then now we have these inch wide strips. And so we can take these and then put them across these hashes the same way, and then cut them again into tiny little squares. Now there is a very specific city that I can't remember the name of, but is very famous for their Manti, and they are known for having really, really tiny little dumplings where you could have over a dozen on a single spoonful. And it's thought that the more meticulous and the more precise the chef is, the smaller they can make them. And so it's actually kind of a famous thing to have these super, super tiny dumplings. We're not going that far for sure, but we are definitely going to be making some cute little ones. This may still be a little thin on a couple of these. So let me do a strip here. I'm going to test it. And then if I'm able to make some little dumplings, we'll call it good and go from there. Ah, they're so cute. All right, so let me go grab a tiny spoon. Because these are tiny dumplings that can only hold tiny filling. All right, so let me grab one of these and we will see what we can do. If we succeed, it's just going to be do that over and over and over again until they are all done. As a quick note, so while I have this going on, I did actually prepare a little baking sheet right here, covered it with some foil, and I sprayed it with some non-stick stick spray. You can also just oil it. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take all of our completed Manti, we're gonna put them all on this baking sheet, and then you par bake them, which is you actually bake them first for a few minutes, get kind of, oh, oven's preheated, get them lightly browned, and then you boil them like pasta. So I have that off to the side so that I have somewhere to put these once I have made them. So now, tiny spoon. Oop, big old mushroom or onions. Tiny amount of filling. And then from my understanding, it is take 2 corners and you push them together. And then you take the other 2 corners and you bring those up to meet in the center. You want to seal the edges together. Ah, it's so cute. And you are left with a tiny little Manti. I can only hope desperately that I will get faster at these as I go. But there's one. I'm probably on the next one's gonna be increasing the size of the strip just to make that a little easier. But I think that I'm gonna make a cute little row of these ones here, and then I'll try the next size on the next set. So I'll see you in however long it takes for me to make these. And we'll then do our next experiment. So see you in a bit. Okay, so this has been by far one of the most meticulous things that I have ever done for a recipe. I'm sure that if it's something that you do regularly, you can get pretty quick at it. But this took somewhere between 2.5 and 3 hours for me to roll together. These are the small ones that I started with. I did make some larger strips for the last batches, and it did make a big difference. It was actually a lot easier to handle them while they were a little bit bigger. But at the same time, they're technically probably the better ones are the smaller ones. For the next part, what we're gonna be doing is I have the oven preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We're gonna put these in there for about 10 minutes or so, just long enough for them to get browned on the top. So this is the par baking step. And then when we come back, it's actually gonna be straight onto the stove because we're gonna make that heated oil and we're gonna actually boil these. And at that point, we've got our Manti and it's time to plate. So getting these in the oven, and then next time we catch up, it'll be over on the stove. Okay, so we have our little par-baked dumplings here, and then we're gonna leave those off to the side for now, just to let them cool down a touch. I'm gonna have the water right here heating up to a boil, and then once that's to a boil, we're just gonna start adding in batches of the Manti. They're gonna cook in the boiling water for similarly about 10 minutes, But the important thing, as with a lot of dumplings, is you're gonna be looking for them to float to the top, so that's really when they're gonna be done. While I'm waiting for that to work on, I'm actually going to start on the spiced oil. So we will add our olive oil here, and I'm gonna start heating this up as well. And then once that gets heated up, I'm gonna mix in our spices and just allow that to all absorb and get some really good infusion. So we're gonna give these a couple minutes to heat up real quick, and then we'll be good to start making some oil. Okay, so we've got our oil up to temperature. Water is almost getting to the simmer point. So we're gonna take that red pepper paste and we're gonna mix this into the oil. Gonna add in the spices. Give them a nice mix. Holy cow. Oh man. This has an aroma. Oh wow. I don't want this to get too hot because I don't want to burn or scorch anything. Let me just turn that off a little bit so I can keep this here. Wow. The mint is a really strong scent that just kind of jumps out when it hits the oil. And then it's mixing in with that pepper tone. This is fascinating. And we're gonna pull this off the heat. Well, I mean, it's already off the heat, so we already did that, but we just need to make sure we don't get too hot, because we want everything to still have really good flavor in there. Wow, okay. All right, now I'm gonna kick this up just a little bit so we can get the boiling going. And I'm gonna let this cool just a touch off to the side here while we finish up with boiling the Manti. So let's go ahead and pop it down here. And then once this comes to a boil, we're gonna add in the Manti, reduce the temperature to a light simmer, and then again, we're waiting for the floating. So probably gonna have to do this in a couple of batches. If I had a really big pot, I might be able to do all in one, but I'd rather not overcrowd it. Should be able to come off pretty easy. We've got a good boil going, so I'm gonna start adding in a few little scoops of these. I'm gonna go for about half of this. All right. Let that go for a few minutes for us. And again, we want to drop the temperature down to a simmer. And then we're going to be looking for them to float to the top, although some of them seem to be kind of floaty already. And in that case, I'm going to trust the time a little bit more than the floating, because I definitely want to make sure that we don't have any raw meat in the middle of these, although that par baking should have taken care of quite a bit of it. But we'll see. So we're going to give these a few minutes to cook. When they're done, we're just going to pull them out, put them right back onto the pan that they came from. Little drizzle of olive oil to prevent them from getting all stuck together. And then we'll do the next batch. And then we put that in a bowl, some yogurt, or the yogurt sauce, the spice oil, and a lot of flavors all coming together. So see you in about 5. All right, our timer has just gone off. These have actually held up really well. Very happy about that. So we're gonna put these over back onto the sheet pan. And then I'm just gonna do a quick drizzle of oil over the top of them, like I was saying earlier. All right, and then I have our second batch here. We've got those in there. This is a much smaller batch, but still gonna let it go for a few minutes here. Again, letting them simmer until they float to the top. I'm gonna let the timer run through all the way. I put a little bit less time on this one because these are the smaller dumplings, but we're gonna see how they turn out. So we've got our second batch coming off now. Okay, perfect. So we now have our Manti off to the side. I have got it in some little bowls for the servings for Bruce and I to give them a try. I'm just gonna add that garlic sauce over the top, spoon a little bit of the spiced oil, and then we'll head back to the table and give it a taste.
This is so fascinating. It smells spectacular.
It looks very interesting.
Okay, so you saw the dumpling making, and then
Smells good though.
yeah, garlic yogurt sauce, little touch of the spiced oil.
Okay.
Now, based on some of the pictures that I've seen, my spiced oil may have been just a touch too hot
Okay.
because it should be a little more ready than brownie. But tasting it, it doesn't taste burned, so I'm thinking that it might just be missing. Like I may have cooked out some of the subtler flavors.
Okay.
Just as a fair point, based on images I've seen, wanted to give it a fair shake.
Well, let's give it a shot. It looks fantastic.
It does. It smells so good. All of that works really, really, really well together.
It sure does. I think this might be better with a spoon, though.
Oh, I could see that. Get a few of them at a time.
Mm-hmm. So I don't want to stab into them and then just like have all the goodness leak out.
It'll also help get more of that sauce in there.
Mm-hmm. This is really good. I mean, when you were making these, and I'm just like, eat with a spoon, I think this is like the perfect way to eat dumplings. But I've never thought about that because dumplings are typically too big to eat them like in a bowl. But like in a bowl with a spoon, if they're small enough to just get like a mouthful of a bunch of dumplings, like that sounds genius. And it is.
And I can
As it
also
turns
see
out.
how having the smaller ones, just like a bowl full, it's like a cereal, but
Yeah.
but dumplings.
It's a dumpling cereal.
Now, I think onions should have been grated for this one, more pastified, maybe chopped even thinner, because that's added a significant texture to it that I can imagine like would really meld in well if it was
A texture, and it also like takes up a lot of space too.
less meat in there.
Yeah, a little less meat, though. Given how small they're supposed to be, that's probably neither here nor there because you'll have a lot of it when you have a bunch of dumplings on your spoon. So
The yogurt is so interesting because it cuts through everything, but then all the other flavors sort of kind of come out of the woodwork and
yeah, it's like the punch.
meld
Yeah,
together.
it's like the punch of the sauce, and then it just kind of gradually releases everything else in it.
I can still taste the mint. It's not super spicy. So if you like spice, you could always add a little bit more to this, but this is just the yogurt cuts it all down. You get the garlic, you get the beef and the onion and the inside with every bite. Like, this is just a really great way of ensuring that as you get a bite, all of the flavors are included.
This is incredible. A bowl full of dumplings. Who knew?
Turkey.
Turkey knew.
Oh. Okay. So, this is amazing, but I don't know if I am super feeling up to hand making. I should have counted them before I actually did this, because I'm pretty sure that I made over 100 dumplings.
Yeah. Probably, if not more. It took you like 3 hours to do all those. So if this was a thing on a menu,
Oh, yeah.
Like,
oh, 100%. I am down.
I'm ordering this.
Or if I have like 5 people that are helping me, like, okay. Let's make this a family affair, everybody. What do we want for dinner? Work.
You know what? Actually, I kind of really like it might be blasphemous to say this, given that these are meant to be as small as possible, basically. But I actually really like the bigger ones. Like a couple of those in a mouthful to really get more of the meat in each one.
But any bigger than these, and I think you couldn't have more than maybe one per scoopful.
Yeah, basically.
And then you would have an unequal amount of like the beef to the other stuff. I think that these are a great size.
I was about to say the bigger. That's what I mean. Like the bigger ones that you made are the perfect size, in my opinion, because it gives you more of the meat inside, which to me is a better ratio of the dough and the meat.
Oh, this is really good.
Yes.
And agree, spoon over fork, for sure.
100%.
Oh, okay. Well, we've got another 50 dumplings to kill after these.
Sold.
And next time we get to move to another country and continue our journey through the world.
The world, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see you next time, and thank you for joining us today. And definitely, if you see some Turkish Manti or you want to give it a try and you've got an afternoon free, it's worth it.